the release events in full swing and full set release being this Friday, OPM is looking to be a meta changer. OPM brings us 3 decks that are sure to change the playing field, and the first one I would like to cover is the Yellow Saitama and Genos deck. This deck uses a 5/2 Saitama to hit your opponents hard, and then uses the Genos engine to make sure you have a strong defense to survive into the late game. But, as always guys, make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe. It means a lot, and it lets me know you want to see more content like this. Anyways, without any more loafing, let's get into the Pro Hero deck list. As always guys, we're going to start off with our Zero Energy, and this time we have 4 types of Zero cost. The first one being Hellish Blizzard, which is our usual draw 1 trash one with a draw trigger. The second one is going to be Genos, it's just for a name. The third is going to be Terrible Tornado. She has Step, which is very key, and then the fourth one is going to be King. King can rest the early blockers on the field, or it can be used in either line to race stand a Saitama, but at the cost of bottom decking it. This can be very, very useful, as when we go into the Saitama, you are going to see why this effect is relevant. Our only 1 energy is Silver Fang. It is a 1/1 that has a unique effect in the front line. Either you can bounce a body on your field to either set it to active, or being able to give it plus 1500, thus becoming a 3500 for the turn. It really combos well with another card that we're about to see later, that you can do some really cheeky shenanigans. But at the very worst, it is a draw trigger. At the 2 energy mark, we are only running 1 2 energy, and that is Saitama's Apartment. So Saitama's Apartment is a site that says when played, you get to look at the top 4, you get to reveal up to 1 Saitama Genos or King, and add them to your hand. Place the remaining cards to the bottom of the deck, and it is a get trigger on top of that as well. This card is really good because not only does it allow us to search for the cards that we need, it is also a bridge to the 3 energy mark. Only on 3 of this for this list, just because I like having that search potential. At the 3 energy mark, we have quite a few cards, so let's talk about them. The first one that we have is going to be our Genoses. So the first one is going to be the Double Block Genos, which is a 3500 double blocker with draw a card on the trigger. The second Genos we have is our color trigger for the deck. It is a 3/1 Genos, and it says Nullify Impact. If Saitama's on the board, this character gets plus 1000 BP, and then when sidelined, if this character was sidelined due to losing a battle, we get to choose up to 1 character on our field and switch it to active. Very useful card. Not only being a color trigger, it is also a Nullify Impact. And in this meta right now, Impact is your usual way of winning the game, so this being able to stop that on a 4K body is very, very strong. And as you're going to see, this last effect with the when sideline works really well with our boss monster in the 5/2 Saitama, because once we get to that, you'll see why that last effect is really relevant. And to finish off our 3 energy targets, we are on the namesake of the deck, the 3/1 Saitama. So this character cannot be removed from the field by your opponent's abilities. This also includes special triggers, so be wary of that. And then if on the front line at the end of your attack phase, move this character to the energy line, so this character will never be able to be a blocker, unfortunately, but still a very strong card, and this main effect is what makes it this strong. Activate main, you get to place 1 card from your hand into the sideline. This can only be activated if your front line is not full. Move this character to your front line. So when this character is active, it becomes a 10k attacker. It does have the downside of your energy line cannot be full, but usually when you're playing this deck, your energy line will not be full, so you will get that 10k attacker. And then on top of it all being a 10k body, it also has the active trigger as well, which will, in a bit here, once we talk about our boss monster, you'll see how good that is. In the 4 energy slot, we have 2 units. So the first one we're going to be talking about is the Raid Genos. It is on a 4/1, has the usual text of Raid in the trigger, but the raid effect is really strong. So when played, this character gets impact 1 until the end of turn, and then when sidelined, we get to play up to 1 yellow 3 or less Genos with required energy of 1 AP set to resting on our field. But if Saitama's on the field, we get to set it to active instead. So this is really huge. Not only is it an amazing attacker in the form of Impact 1 used out to close out games, if for some reason he does get sidelined, whether it be through effect or a battle, we can get to play another 3/1 Genos. And as you saw in our 3/1 section, or our 3 energy section, we have quite a few of those. Naturally, if you can get to play the color trigger Genos off of this effect, you not only get a 4K nullify impact, you also get to restand your Saitama with the effect. And speaking of Saitama, the second Saitama I should say we're going to take a look at is the 4/2 Saitama from the starter deck. Not a lot of lists are playing this one, but this one is very key, so let's go over it. So the first thing is you get to play this character in active set to the field, and with all Saitama, this character cannot be removed by your opponent's abilities, and then at the end of your attack phase, you have to put it to the bottom of the deck. It's a very unfortunate thing, but this, when played, is what we are mainly looking for. So when played, you get to choose up to 1 of your opponent's characters with 4,000 or less on your opponent's front line and sideline it. So it is a 4/2 Saitama that literally one-punches your opponent's characters, and it is a 10,000 get triggered. So very good removal. You can use this in tandem with, let's say, for example, a special, or if you want to use it in tandem with a Raid Genos, you can go for a very offensive push. And then finally, the last character that we are running in this deck, and pretty much the main reason we are running this deck, is the 5/2 Saitama. So as with all Saitamas, you get to play this character in your field active, but there is a downside to this. This character has to attack if able. So that also means if this character is able, it will always be the first attacker. But it does have damage too, and with all the other Saitamas, this character cannot be removed by your opponent's abilities, but it still can be rested down, so be wary of that. And then it has the beautiful effect of activate main once per turn. You get to place up to 1 Saitama card from your hand into your sideline. If you do, this character gains impact 1. When attacking, this character remains resting the next time it would be set to active. So the reason why this card is super strong and we can build a deck around it is just because it has damage too. It is a 5 cost, but it does have that downside of basically freezing itself. But as you guys know, we are running, for example, the 3/1 Genos, that when it gets sidelined, we can restand the Saitama. That way we can have a blocker. We also are running active triggers as well. And as I mentioned with the King, you can bottom deck the King, the active Kings, to restand the Saitama, so you have a 10k blocker that can't be removed by your opponent's effect. Notably, like I said before, you are able to get tapped down with like a Toshi effect or a yellow color trigger. So just make sure you play around those types of cards when you are going for your offensive pushes. But this 5/2 Saitama is a lot of pressure in the early game. Unlike something like Renji where you have to pay an AP for it, this just comes down and has innate damage too. And on top of that all, you can throw away a Saitama that you might not need, and then being able to gain impact. You do have to kind of be wary though, because if you get multiples of these Saitamas, they will clog up the front line and then you won't be able to block out as efficiently. So make sure you are playing efficiently when it comes to the Saitama, because while it might have a good offense, the defense is lacking. So that's why we run it in tandem with the Genos package to do some shenanigans. And finally, as always, guys, we have to talk about our events. And no surprise, the events we are running here are going to be our special, our final, and for the namesake of the deck, One Punch. So as always, let's get into the special. The special is pretty much as usual. If you use it, you get to pop a 3k, but if there's a Genos on field, we get to pop a 5k. Very good special. Then we have our final. No need to talk about this too much. It's just a tap to gain an extra AP. And then One Punch. So this card does a lot. Let's talk about it. So the first thing it does is you get to choose one of the following. If your opponent has 3 or more life, you get to deal 1 damage to them, which is huge. And then it also has, you get to choose up to one of your Saitamas on the field. It gains impact 1. So doing double duty here, not only will you be able to guarantee damage with this card, you are also able to maybe give your Saitama any one on the field. Notably, you can give this to the 3/1 Saitama in the back line, target it, give it impact, then discard a card, push it up, and now that Saitama has impact. Or if you have another Saitama in hand, you can give the 3/1 the impact with the One Punch, and then discard a card to give the other one, so now you have 2 Saitamas with impact. And at very worst, it is a draw trigger. Very good card, very solid card. I know a lot of people, if you are familiar with One Piece, it's very similar to Reject, and that way you can deal your opponent damage. They will get to check the trigger, however, but usually when it doesn't matter because you will have multiple Saitamas, so they won't be able to be removed. So you are set in that regard. And that is it for the overall deck list. Let's take a look at the actual deck list itself and see what ratios we are running. Alright guys, so this is the overall deck list, so let's just go over it and recap. Let me explain why I'm running certain ratios. So we are on 2 of Kings, 4 of Genos, 2 of Terrible Tornado, and 4 of Yellow Blizzard. I'm only on 2 Kings just because 1, I only have 2 Kings, but I found out through testing that I don't actually want multiple of this card. Just because of the caveat that it cannot attack or block, it's kind of clunky, especially in the front line. It's similar to how the 5/2 Saitama is. You don't want too many of them on board, and I felt like 2 was the sweet spot when I was playing. Maybe additionally, maybe I can come down with Terrible Tornado, which I'm only running 2 of, to maybe add in that 3rd King just as an additional trigger, and it's another draw trigger as well, and drawing cards is never bad. And Hellish Blizzard, same thing, 4 of, just because it is a draw trigger, and on play you get to draw a card, discard a card. Some of the times the discard feels kind of bad because sometimes you want to be most of the time you want to be maxing out on efficiency with this deck, so having to discard a key piece is kind of a feel bad. Only on the 2 of Silver Fang, this could be bumped up to 3 if you want to play a little bit more aggressively, or you need just that 1 more card to bridge into that 3. You could definitely come down 1 Saitama's Apartment to make room for that additional card. We're definitely on 4 of the Color Trigger Genos. Very strong card. Definitely need to be running 4 of it. The 3/1 Saitama, also a very strong card. Definitely need to be running 4 of that as well. The 3/1 Double Block Genos, it is a draw trigger. Very good, strong draw trigger as well. Very helpful to protect yourself against that early game aggression, because that is what people will look to do to run you down. So this card puts in a lot of work, and also being 3500, it kind of dodges that the Gurren from Purple CG that pops at 3k. Being 35, you are able to dodge that just a bit. 4 of the Raid Genos, you need this as an additional finisher, just a very strong card overall. I am on 3 of the 4/2 Saitama, also a card that I love as well. Maybe you could make some room for this by coming, you can run maybe the 4th Silver Fang by coming down 1 of this and 1 of Saitama's Apartment, but I do like this card a lot just because it is removal on a body, and more removal is always good. Naturally, we're on 4 of the 5/2 Saitama, just because it is our boss character, and we need to be looking to see this as fast and quickly as possible. It is our main source of damage as well, so we need to be seeing it early and efficiently. And naturally, as always, we are on 4 finals and 4 specials. Only 2 One Punch, just because it is a draw trigger, but sometimes it does kind of feel clunky in hand. You don't want to be just free dealing your opponent damage some of the times, unless you have Saitamas on field. That way you can play the one punch, play whatever else you have, so that way if you hit a special trigger, you don't lose a body. And then to round off the deck list, we are running Saitama's Apartment at 3. I felt like 3 was the sweet spot. Arguably, you could go down to 2, and like I mentioned, you can add in an extra Silver Fang just for that added bridge, but I did like it at 3 just so I have a little bit more consistency. Well, that is it for the deck list, guys. Let's go into the text, and then let's round up this deck list. For tech options, we have 3 main choices. The first one is going to be the 2/1 Genos. So when played, you get to choose one of the following. Look at the top 5 cards, reveal up to 1 Saitama, and add it to hand, and then you get to place the remaining to the bottom. And then if you added a card, you have to place one to sideline, or if Saitama is on your field, you get to draw a card. This one is really good just for an additional search, or just to get that draw if Saitama is already on board. I was initially running this, but I felt like just because it didn't have a trigger, it felt kind of lackluster, usually being discard fodder. So you can consider this one for your list, not a bad consideration. The second card we're going to take a look at is the Hellish Blizzard Raid. So on Raid, you get to draw 2 cards, and then you get to activate main. If it's in the front line, you get to place 2 cards from your hand to the sideline, and then once per turn, you get to choose one of the following. If one, you can add one event without special from your sideline to your hand, and then, or you can, all characters on your field gain plus 1,000 until the end of turn. So thus making her pretty much everything big and strong. So she buffs herself to a 4K, your Saitama becomes an 11K, your Genoses become 5K, so forth and so on. Very good tech. I like this personally. I've seen a lot of people testing this one. It seems pretty strong, especially the fact that you can add not only, like say for example, one punch, you can also add back a final as well to do some extension plays. So definitely worth considering for me personally. But give this one a shot and let me know in the comments, guys, what you think about this one. And then the final card that I think you should consider is the 4/1 Silver Fang Raid. So on Raid, you get to choose up to 1 character on your field. This character gains a cannot be chosen by your opponent's character abilities until the start of your next turn. And then when attacking, if you have 2 or less cards, you get to draw a card. And it is a add to hand. The reason why people are considering this one is when you max out on the 1-cost-1 Silver Fang, being able to choose your Genos, so your Genos won't be popped, like for example through a Gurren Mark II raid or things like that. Let's say for example a 8-cost Lancelot won't be able to pop it when you raid into this. Is very, very strong. And the added additional is, the thing with this deck is sometimes you can go a little hell bent, so this will be able to replenish your hand with when attacking on a 4K body. Definitely worth the consideration if you want to play a more 4K heavy build. So just with that way, every card that you use is a little bit stronger. I'm not running it personally just because I feel like it can get pretty clunky if you're not maxing out on it. But if you guys use this card and you guys like using it, let me know what your build is. I would definitely would like to try it out. But that is going to wrap it up for our deck list, guys. Let me know what you guys think in the comments about my deck list for Yellow One Punch Man and what you guys are going to be cooking up. The next deck list we're going to be taking a look at, it's going to be one near and dear to my heart, is going to be the Green Saitama list. But without further ado, guys, that is it from me. I'll see you guys in the next one. Make sure you guys stay hydrated, stay safe, and I hope you guys enjoy One Punch Man's release, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.